And we are live. So, welcome to episode 205 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house this afternoon, or this evening, because it's not exactly night, all the way over across the pond, we've got Morgan Scorpion, who has decided to show up and join me for this discussion this afternoon. Thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Always. Yeah. It's always good to hang out. This is an unusual type of coverage because typically we discuss films, although sometimes we discuss series. However, I find that with series, it's a little more difficult because you aren't always connected to people that have access to them or are watching them. And sometimes for the purposes of a show, it's difficult to ask another person to cover an entire season of something with you. It's a bit of a commitment, a time commitment. So in a perfect world, you look for something that is, or someone that is equally invested in the show with you. And then, it's not really much of a problem because that person is probably already watching it anyway. And so you and I are here for that as we discuss Max's Spanish horror drama, not horror drama really, a horror series, excuse me, I misspoke, 30 Coins. So if you're ready, shall we get it going?
Yes, absolutely.
All right then, boogie woogie. So this first season dropped, I think, 2 years ago, something along those lines. And I saw it and I was amazed from the very first episode. This was original content, an original storyline. You had phenomenal effects working in a horror series. You had some Lovecraftian, imagery going on, interesting characters. Someone clearly cared when it came to this. And I just ate up all 8 episodes right away. I'm glad that, we're here now to discuss it because season 2 has dropped and it's dropping 1 episode at a time, ongoing. And as soon as that wraps up, I'd love to have you back again to discuss it one more time. But what were your impressions of watching 30 Coins?
Where to start? It grabbed me right from the start. The very first sequence where you've got the bank robbery in progress. And, I was mystified at why the man being shot by the security guards wasn't falling over until I just kind of suddenly dawned on me that something supernatural was going on, and it wasn't just the usual Star Wars bad shot on the part of the. Sorry, getting a bit tongue-tied here, but I was just blown away by that. And then when he gets into the cab and it's a priest who's behind it, that really shocked me, and it just kind of took off from there. Then the next thing you've got a baby being born out of a cow, and then the baby grows, like 10 times the size of a normal baby, and the next thing you know, it's turned into a spider. It's where you just completely.
It's bold writing. So the premise of the show, and I would strongly suggest that everybody get a chance to watch it. It's currently streaming on Max right now. And like I said, the second season is dropping 1 week at a time, episode by episode. But the premise is that there is a conspiracy within the Catholic Church of Satanists in very high levels of the church who are looking to acquire all 30 coins, all 30 pieces of silver that were given to Judas at the time of the betrayal prior to the crucifixion. in order to flip the balance of power in the world from good to evil. The odds, the idea being that good and evil are always pushing against each other, but over the long run, good always wins. If these people, with the help of, friends from the underworld, if that's what you want to call them, giving them a little push here and there, can acquire all 30 coins, it will change the balance of the universe itself, and specifically here, the world that we live in. But you're right. I mean, it starts, the basic setting of it is in a very small Spanish, and by that I mean Spain, because this is HBO Europe production. You're looking at a very small Spanish village or town, almost an agricultural town, basically known for its, 100 people or so living in it. Day to day, it's one of those towns where everybody knows everybody. There are no secrets. You've got this nice guy who's kind of a pushover. He's the mayor. We're talking about Paco. His wife, Merche, who's kind of this domineering sort of businesswoman that pushes him around, but he's too good-natured to stand up to her. You've got Father Vergara, who is an exorcist, but who is now living a quiet life as the priest of this particular parish in this very small town. People don't know him all that well. He's kind of new, only been in the town about a year. And then you have Elena, who is the vet, who's really only sort of brought into this by circumstance, because you're right. The purpose of the bank robbery in the very first scene, which is really a great piece of action, is then followed up by this vet, Elena, assisting a farmer with their cow giving birth. And the birth ends up being a human baby. So right off, I mean, it just wastes no time, setting you up for all these things. It just goes right at it. And you're just along from the ride from the beginning. A fantastic piece of action. You've got 8 episodes in this season. And the new season, I think they're all the way up to episode 3 or 4. Paul Giamatti, I believe, has been brought in to the new season this year. I haven't started that yet, but I'm going to start it this weekend, and I've got some time coming off because American Thanksgiving is next week. So I've got a nice 4-day weekend. So I look forward to catching up. But there are just interesting characters here, just like regular everyday people that are being like, there's no, at the highest levels of government or some super commando team or something like that. It's just kind of a bunch of small town schlebs, that are sort of thrust into this horror, this existential horror story for the fate of the world. And it's fantastic. Unless you feel otherwise. All right. Are you there?
Well, sorry, you need to give me more direct cues. I'm a bit clueless.
No, it's just it's me. So just hop in wherever you want.
Where was I?
I was just saying that
I want to mention something to go back to the opening credits.
Sure. Where
you have the crucifixion, you have people mocking Christ, you have the soldier giving the money to Judas, and then you have something very, very, very strange. You have Jesus looking down from the cross and laughing quietly at Judas, who then becomes overcome with horror and rushes off to hang himself. And then the soldiers fight over the coins. But to my mind, there's something incredibly sinister in that laugh. Disturbing, in fact, because this is not the Christ we've been told about. This is something fairly different. I'd also like to point out something, is that the image on the coins is that of the Emperor Nero. And historically speaking, at the time of the crucifixion, the emperor was Tiberius.
Right.
So these are the coins of an emperor who isn't an emperor yet.
Okay.
In fact, might not even have been born yet. I'm trying to remember when Nero's birth was. I'd have to Google that. but they're the wrong coins. And I don't know whether this is an oversight, but I suspect it isn't an oversight because of what we've seen of how tightly plotted this whole series is.
Well, there certainly is a lot of chronological. There certainly is a lot of chronological jumping back and forth to fill you in on various sort of contexts. We haven't gone back, at least so far that I've seen, in these ancient times, at the time of the crucifixion or the Roman Empire. We haven't returned to that. I don't know if we're going to, but it could be. It could be that it's an oversight, or that there's more to come. So I'm not, and you didn't do this either, but I'm not knocking it. But it's a good catch. There's also this idea within the story that Judas, at least from the satanic perspective, is a hero who is this sort of sainted character who plays his part to betray Christ at Christ's behest, if I have it correctly. He has been asked to do this. This has been thrust upon him. It is his destiny. So he's not seen in the stereotypical Christian light as the betrayer. He's seen sort of as the unsung hero that makes sure that everything comes to pass. And all of the people within the church are part of this sort of occult subculture that look at it this way. And so when you find out that these are the people right next to the Pope, it's very alarming. There's a scene, I think, where Father Vergara makes it all the way to Rome because he's trying to speak to the Pope and articulate, what his concerns are and that there's something wrong with the church. And the first person that the Pope turns him on to is the leader of this conspiracy, and
how much does the Pope know is the question that comes to mind. Is he in on it too?
Yeah, and I don't want to believe that because I don't think there have been various movies and series that have talked about conspiracies within the church. If you look at that newest Exorcist series that was part of Fox, that was part of a conspiracy within the church. And it's not a new trope necessarily, but it's exceedingly well done here. And, we've got, Father Vergara as this sort of grizzled, old school kind of priest with a big bushy beard. He's a boxer. He's always working out, hitting the heavy bag. He has a secret stash of ammunition and weapons, behind the altar, in the church. I mean, he's just, he, at all times, it seems like, he's one step away of, from getting ready to join the fight once again. But at the same time, he's trying to forget, but it turns out to be impossible because he is holding one of the coins. Yeah. One of the coins. Now, one of the other characters that's in this show, what did you think of the other characters?
Of the other characters, well, I am a big fan of Macarena Gomez. And I don't like Pablo very much. I think he's a sneaky, adulterous creep of a man.
Are you talking about Paco?
Really
Paco? Yeah, he is.
Paco, yeah.
And so, wait, the first actress you mentioned,
Macarena Gomez. She was one of the stars of The Black Gloves, which is a Hex Studios production. I have to get a plug in there for The Black Gloves. Okay. But we first see her as horror fans. She first appears as the High Priestess of Dagon, Ushia, in Stuart Gordon's Dagon, where men who have seen that film of my acquaintance are still drooling at the thought of Ushia. She certainly knocked them off their socks. But she also gave this superhuman performance. You really could believe in Ushia as a priestess of Dagon.
Okay, so
I am naturally inclined to favour any character that she plays. So factor this in. But the character she is playing, Mercy, is not really an appropriate name for her because she's not exactly merciful.
Well,
she is kind of bossy and she is domineering, and she's also trying to keep the family business, I think it's a family business, afloat and flourishing without very much help from her husband, who is too busy chasing after the vet. Okay, to be honest, he's also fighting the forces of darkness.
yes.
But I have a lot of sympathy for her, and I can't help thinking that she might be less domineering if he was more responsible, and less neurotic if he was more faithful.
He is, I think, a very weak character. Throughout the entirety, because he's not strong when it comes to Merche, and he's not really strong when it comes to Elena. He's one of those people. He doesn't seem to have his mind made up, and so he has one foot. Clearly has one foot in each life, and it's what makes him such an infuriating character.
Yeah.
Because you finally want him just to make a decision and stick to something.
Yes, yes.
And he never does, which is ironic because he's the mayor, but he's the mayor of this very small little village where you don't have to really do much, and the town kind of runs itself, so on and so forth. And it always seems like he's running unopposed. At the same time, he clearly has feelings for the vet, even though they're sort of thrust together. I do like the character of Merche. I think that she is extremely well played.
Yes.
By this woman. And Merche, in this sense, is short for Mercedes. That is her full name. She's a lot of these characters in this show are very flawed people. They're extremely flawed people, and so I think she is domineering, but she's also very insecure.
Of course,
because she
the
sees
husband
that,
like that, who wouldn't be?
Yeah, she's insecure about the stability of their marriage and the stability of their business and their position with him as the mayor. But I also get the feeling that, he's kind of a puppet for her, so she constantly has to, I don't think he's doing anything that he really wants to do in life, but that's his own fault. Because he won't stand up as an adult man and say, look, I'm not doing this, or look, we're going to make some changes, or hey, you can do what you want to do, but I need to start, doing something for me here.
Yeah.
He never takes a stand.
Yes.
And so it becomes the two women, which is Elena and Mercedes, who end up sort of becoming, the polar opposites with Paco in the middle. And I like the Elena character. She's not looking for trouble. She's not looking to try to, steal someone's husband. But it seems that it ends up happening that way.
Well. Okay, Elena. On the one hand, I like Elena. She's feisty. She's intelligent. She's got integrity. She looks fabulous. She also reminds me, in some scenes, she reminds me a lot of the character of Cellini in the Underworld films.
Oh, okay.
She is also, as we'd say in England, a massive slapper.
I don't know.
3 different men, 2 of them in the same episode. My God, she gets around.
Look at her. Look at her. It's a small town. She's
she gets the opportunities, doesn't she?
She's like the most beautiful woman within like 100 miles in like every direction. I mean, she's like, and that's another thing. That's
I'm trying to remember the name of the girl, the farm girl, the one who Jesus' daughter, because I think that she is one of the most stunningly beautiful women I've seen in a long time.
Are we talking about the girl with the Ouija board?
No, we're talking about the farm girl who got pregnant.
I can't remember her name. Yeah.
You remember Jesus, the crazy guy with the shotgun who killed Helena's husband?
Yeah.
Yeah, his daughter.
Yeah, I can't remember her name though.
I'm going to have to quickly look through the cast list because I've got the cast list pulled up here. No, that's not her.
It's an interesting thing because
Elvira, she's an actress called Abril Montilla.
Okay. Well, I mean, you've got that Latino spirit, so they're all a little spicy and dark-haired, and they're vibrant. Spanish people are vibrant people, and so yeah, there's no shortage of beautiful Latina women out there, and there's no shortage of them in this show.
Mm.
And if I could be so bold, I think that part of the insecurity also is that as attractive as Mercedes is, Elena is more so.
Prettier and younger.
Yeah, and younger, and she's, she doesn't have too many cares in the world. I mean, I bet if you saw Mercedes,
apart from
like
her
if I saw this
husband disappearing and everybody thinking she had something to do with it, which must weigh upon her quite heavily.
It doesn't show. It doesn't show coming through the television set.
Okay.
That's all I'm
we
saying.
come back to her being a massive slapper, don't we? Really?
Yeah, I guess you could say, yeah, okay. So we've got those three, and that's an interesting triangle. You've got Father Vergara. You've got.
Oh, I keep thought it was called Father Vergara, which is yes, wrong country. Reminds me an awful lot of Robert De Niro.
Vergara does.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Why do you say that? I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just.
De Niro, but he also has De Niro's intensity.
He's an extremely intense person, and especially like later on, as you see, the flashing. It's a little off-putting in some of the flashbacks where you see him as a young man, because it's the same actor, and so you can see that as a young man, this is what he really looks like. But the makeup and the small practical effects that they add to him to make him look as this stressed, you're right, extraordinarily intense man. It's really something. I like that with the first episode, even. I mean, like you said, it goes right into it with the baby. Within a day, it becomes like the size of a 10-year-old. Given to this other family, the Alonzos, who have lost a child and clearly are being manipulated. Like very quickly, the mother falls under the influence. You've also got the village idiot Antonio, who wants to drop the baby off a roof. And Antonio is an
all along, yes.
Antonio is
not an idiot, really, is he? He's right about so many things.
Antonio is the classic fool. He's the classic literary fool. He is the one who consistently speaks the truth throughout the entirety of the series without really suffering the repercussions. The fool is the person that always speaks the truth.
Jumps off of a roof and survives. Jumps off of a roof and survives. Which reminds me of the tarot card where you have the fool jumping into the abyss or about to step off into the abyss.
Yes. An interesting cast of characters. I don't think that anybody should dismiss Antonio, because he's very relevant at all times, and actually he provides clarity at times when you're not sure really what's going on, and there's maybe a quick 10-second segment or a couple of lines from Antonio that provides a lot of important context. I mean, we're in the middle of one episode now. It's very difficult to relate how good this show is. It's fantastic. And then, what ends up happening with the Alonzos and her crafting, Senora Alonzo crafting that web inside the house. I mean, it's so creepy. I've watched this for the second time now in preparation for the show, and it still gets me. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is tremendously intense. Amazing. And then when you see what the baby ends up turning into, which is this monster just straight out of hell, extremely intense.
Now, there's a number of things which happen, which I think are incredibly significant for the overall story arc. Is that we're always told that the devil can't go near holy relics, that he flees from the sight of a crucifix, and that he definitely cannot enter a church.
Right.
These demons do enter into a church. In fact, they actually seem to like it there. They spend so much time in it throughout the course of the show.
Yeah,
A big clue that what we're dealing with here is not the traditional God versus the devil scenario that we get in so many horror movies.
No, you're not. And I've seen that refuted a few times. Where the devil enters a church. If you looked at like Pacino and The Devil's Advocate, or Gabriel Byrne in End of Games. I mean, not the greatest.
Or Robert De Niro's character in Angel Heart.
Yeah, he starts off. I think they meet in a church. So I mean that's a common trope. But I've seen it, sort of undone, and I'm not upset by it or anything like this. But here, they're taking it to another level with these Lovecraft style monsters. It's not pea soup or just somebody with glowing eyes. I mean, somebody actually took the time to craft and design these monsters that are just horrifying to look at. We're still talking about the first episode, which is just amazing.
I'm reminded to mention Lovecraftian. Lovecraft didn't actually invent this one, but there was a spider goddess, Atlak Naka. I think Clark Ashton Smith invented her, but she's definitely part of the mythos. And, I see so we've got some kind of spider entity behind this. Who fathered the baby? That's the question.
That's another interesting story, which reminds me
the cow can tell us.
It reminds me of, because when I saw it, when I first started watching this for the second time, we had just come off that witchcraft theme, or maybe not, maybe it was a little bit before that, but we weren't far removed from covering Lamb, A24's Lamb, which is about a lamb that gives birth to a half human, half lamb. And so the question is, which you almost sort of forget by the time you get to the end of the movie, and then you're graphically reminded as to where this lamb came from. I mean, there's no answer for that. There's no answer as to where this, who fathered this spider. We also get to the second episode, which is called Ouija, which is about a bunch of kids that are just fooling around with a Ouija board, and that's a common trope for disaster. And with predictable, it's extremely creepy how the one girl Soleil just disappears out of the room, in this crypt or wherever it is that they're conducting this seance, extraordinarily. Just creepy. There's tons of great atmosphere with this. There's a tension that never really lets go. There are a couple of things towards the end. I thought that, and if I was going to offer criticism, constructive criticism, I thought things slowed down sort of like in the last episode, and it was a little longer than it needed to be. You could have made that a little more succinct. It seemed to stretch out longer than it needed to. But for the vast majority, I mean, 85-90% of this series, it keeps you going from 1 second to the next. What did you think of the Ouija episode?
Well, it dragged a little bit. The second and the third episodes both dragged a little bit for me. So what I remember again is the young woman cutting her face open. That was Soleil. Just Well, they just called her Soul, because I have to point out that I had to watch. I acquired my copy of this show on DVD. I bought the DVD on eBay, and basically, I had some technical issues replaying it because it's a Blu-ray, and I have to play it on my PlayStation 4. So I had to listen to it dubbed. I'm feeling kind of embarrassed here because I've been on record numerous times about how much I hate dubbed and prefer subtitles. But I had to go with dubbed simply because a lot of the subtitles aren't translated for this.
Oh dear.
I heard her name pronounced as Sol, because I
No,
would
it's
have thought Sol. But, I heard it pronounced as Sol, which of course means something in English. So
okay.
whether it's pronounced Sol in the original Spanish or not, I have no idea.
In the original Spanish, her name was Sole.
Ah,
Sole.
right. Yeah, no problem with the subtitle. You see, this is one of the reasons why I don't like subtitled.
Oh, I love subtitles.
Sorry, one of the reasons why I don't like dubbed. My mistake.
Wait, what was that? What was that vampire movie that we talked about? That's so good. That's Argentinian, but you
on
can
the
only get it
third day.
Oh, and I had to watch, and it was just this fantastic movie, but we had to watch it with the English dubbing, and I'm like, you're ruining this movie. Hold on a second. We got some comments here.
Yeah.
We got the Standing Wanderer saying good evening. Thank you for dropping by.
Welcome.
And we got Diego Villanueves Pelicero saying it's Sole from Soledad. Okay, so from Soledad.
Thank you.
So that works. Yes, thank you very much.
Soledad, does that translate into English as lonely or alone?
That's a good question. Hold on. To English. I think it means Soledad. Yeah.
I was struck by when she comes back and talks about being in the fog.
She was probably in that fog that we saw in the later episodes, being kept by those people that were. Diego says, yes, it means lonely. It means solitude.
Thank you.
So I thought that was I thought that was very creepy. I thought, there is some black humor in this, in that, when they're questioning the kids just appear so stupid, because I guess anybody in that circumstance would. But again, just kind of freaked out, when Sole just kind of disappears and then reappears. Again, sticking the razor in her mouth, the knife in her mouth, and, just trying to get these people to do what she wants them to do, or what they want them to do, the people that are controlling everything. Again, an episode that I thought just kind of went right to the wall. Good stuff. Good stuff. From there, I mean, what else did we go on to? The next episode was what? The Mirror?
Yes, I liked that. I liked that bit about the mirror to the other world and moving the book about, and the Gospel of Judas, which is interesting. I'm just going to check.
About what?
The Gospel of Judas apparently really exists.
There are. I have a book of Apocrypha, which are, books that were supposedly done around the same time, but were not accepted by the church as, sufficient to include in the Bible. There's like the Gospel of Thomas, and a couple of other Gospels there. But I don't know if the Gospel of Judas is in the copy that I have. It's a very thin book. But you could find them in any, if you're thinking that these are like these super secret texts, you can buy an Apocrypha anywhere on Amazon or anything like that, $5-10, something along those lines.
Apparently, the only surviving manuscript is dated from 220 to 340 AD, which doesn't mean there weren't older versions around, but that is a comparatively late date. Sorry, I should just. The loneliness. I like that. Loneliness. I like that a lot. Sorry, I just point out here that my degree is in theology.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun looking at some of the apocryphal gospels. Well, obviously, I didn't have the time to look at all of them. I had this degree to study for, but this is sort of feeding into my perception here.
I imagine there are probably an unlimited number of rabbit holes that you could probably look down one rabbit hole and spend a lifetime, and just on one of them, just on one thing. You could do that. So we get to the Mirror, and what do we have here? These things are trying to, or this group is trying to make contact with Father Vergara to get the the coin back. He has one of the coins. And it's an interesting concept in that this mirror, there seems to be a whole other, that these mirrors are used as throughways, I guess, into other worlds, or throughways into, because we see at the end that the one man takes the mirror straight through to America. I think he ends up in the middle of Midtown Manhattan, from this little small town in Spain. But again, did you think you thought this was a little slow too?
A little bit. I still find it quite fascinating, the mirror sequences. But yes, I'm having difficulty remembering it, and I only saw it again 2 days ago for the second time.
This is the episode where he finds the mirror image. Father Vergara finds the mirror image of himself. He gets yanked into the mirror,
and we get to hear more of the backstory about how he came by the coin.
Yes, through the exorcism of Giacomo, and then the alternate Father Vergara comes through the mirror and convinces everyone to burn down Elena's vet shop. Because again, it's one of those towns where everybody gossips about everybody else. So,
well, it's very much a witch hunt going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, very much. And it's very easy to, have everybody turn on just one person or blame one person because, now suddenly all these strange things are happening. The Alonzos are dead. This freakish baby, Soleil's been missing. All these different things. The one girl turns up pregnant. So on and so forth. So, everybody is looking for some answers. And the easiest answer is just to blame, someone who is a little less established or, has had some gossip said about them in the past. It very much plays on the politics of living in a small town, which, there are quite a few. I mean, I live in a small town. I grew up in a small town. I was gone for a long time. Now I'm back here right now. There are a lot of, politics in, these little small towns. It's a fact of life.
I escaped from my small town and never looked back. So, different perspective.
I'm here right now because, my father's 85. So,
right.
As his only, child, it falls to me. I have no brothers or sisters. And so, otherwise I'd still be I'd still be on the road. But, if that were happening, I wouldn't have met you because it would never have occurred to me to do this channel. This channel occurred after I've returned back, and I've been back for a couple of years now. And I said, well, I need to do something while I'm here. So, here I am with this. So it all works out for the best. Now, my favorite episode is Memories, episode 4. And that is the episode where we get into the origin stories, really, of Father Vergara, the exorcisms, where you start to meet these people, as they are young exorcists. A couple of other, the priests, not Lagunas. But we also meet for the first time Cosimo Fusco as Angel. Do you want to talk about that character a little bit? What did you think?
What can I say? He blew me away. He was I'm going to judge him on the performance here. Is he managed to be both very attractive and repulsive at the same time? Fascinating, but very scary. You would not want to cross him. I loved this sequence with the fire. I don't want to spoil anybody for this too much, but there's this wonderful thing where he just basically immolates somebody who was taunting him. And part of me is going, serves you right for that.
It starts out as this, looking back at young Vergara and other priests who are observing an exorcism inside seminary school, inside the Vatican, asking tough questions of the exorcist, perhaps questions that are a little immature. The exorcist becomes agitated and just says, just get out of the class. Like, this isn't something, this is just for you to listen. Like, we don't need your input here, shut up and, listen, which they're not willing to do. Later on, oh God, what was the name of the other priest? Not Angel. What's the name of the corrupt priest?
I have forgotten. I am frantically looking here and cannot find it.
Yeah, well, he ends up taking them to a deserted series of storage containers where he has been conducting his own exorcism for quite some time. And you are introduced to the Angel character, who is just this very calm man sitting on the bed with his mouth taped up. And it is one of the creepiest damn exorcisms or exorcism scenarios that I've ever seen. It's fantastic. I think it's Cardinal Santolo. Santolo becomes, and he ends up becoming like a cardinal. But
is this Manolo Solo? Yes, yeah. I think that's him. Manolo
Solo. And it is just one of the creepy, because instead of the usual pea soup and attacks, so on and so forth, it's just this exchange. It's a conversation. You have the impression that you're just having this conversation with an extraordinarily high level demon or whatever, that's interacting through the body of this man. And he'll just tell you what you want to know, because he is not intimidated in the least little bit by these three priests.
And I loved his reactions to the third priest trying to do the exorcism on him. He's like, oh, really? Do I have to put up with this primitive stuff? Now you're just insulting me.
Yeah, when he throws the water on him, he's like, come on, he's almost like, you got that in my eye. Come on, don't do this. These sorts of things. He's very transparent, which somehow makes it scarier, because he sort of removes the mystery, and he's just like, well, the answers are right there. If you open that door right there, you'll have committed yourself for life, but all the answers you ever want will be right through there. Because Santoro says, I want to meet your boss. And he's like, you would disintegrate like in his presence. Like, you can't do that. He goes, I want to talk to him anyway. He's like, okay, go right through the door. Fantastic performance. Because,
well, I have my theories there, but
go ahead.
Maybe I should save that for a later episode.
Okay. Oh, do you think that he was? Because that would be my leave. Yeah, let's
massive spoiler here. Angel is Nyarlathotep. He's a biggie, the big homage of the Lovecraft mythos. And the only boss that Nyarlathotep has is Azathoth, aka the Crawling Chaos. And apparently, you would disintegrate if you came in contact with the Crawling Chaos. Because, well, he's crawling, he's chaotic, he's a blind idiot at the center of the universe. And if he wakes up, everything will disappear because he's dreaming us all. There's a lovely poem by H.P. Lovecraft which mentions the high priest, Nyarlathotep, kicking his god in the head. It's from one of the fungi from Yuggoth cycle. I'm here frantically Googling to see if I can find it.
Do you know?
And we'll be here all day with me trying to do that.
No, that's okay. Do you know the Alex de la Iglesia, who's the director of the series? I mean, these showrunners are just putting together something that I've never seen before. Fantastic.
Well, I don't know him, but I do follow him on Twitter.
Do you really? I'm going to have to start doing that myself. I'm going to have to start doing Alex de la Iglesia. This is just hyper competent. It's extremely well written. and extremely well performed. On all sides. I mean, there's no one here who's not, carrying their water here, or I'm saying, oh, you've got too many people here, you should stream like this a little bit. Like I said, towards the end in the last episode, you could have trimmed a few things out, or, made that a little shorter, maybe by 10 minutes or so. But that's not really a criticism. It's more like it's just a constructive observation. I mean, we go through all of these and they're just fantastic. The dream sequences, because I don't know that we want to go through every episode, although we can if that's what you like.
Well, yes.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, we go through and we find out that, Santoro goes through the door and is never seen again until now, where we find out he is the spearhead of the, satanic sort of conspiracy within the church. I guess, he does survive. And
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
That there's an underground temple with an upside down Christ. And I'm trying to, is this at the beginning of this episode, or the previous one, or the next one? Because I found that absolutely amazing.
Wait, say that again.
There's an underground temple. We see men in high vis and hats with lanterns going down, further down into this huge underground temple with the upside down Christ. The eyeball of which contains one of the 30 coins.
Yeah, they roll the eyeball. The eyeball is like a movie.
Is it at the beginning of this episode or another one?
I can't remember.
Oh, I can't remember either. And I saw them. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of small details. There's very little wasted material here. All of it extremely well put together. But that was my favorite episode, Memories. I'll never forget that. It's fantastic stuff. We get to the episode, was it episode 5, the double, which, I mean, because these groups are pulling out all the stops, and we get the introduction of the old lady, who is sort of this hovering, witch, and she's just creepy and just sort of like nobody seems to see her.
I'm just going to look up the name of the actor who plays her, because that was stunning.
The thing of it is with this show, I think, period, is that all the performances are sort of minimalist. You're getting a lot more from people that are not playing over the top. There's not a lot of screaming or yelling or, any of these sorts of things that you typically would see in horror or anything like that. It's very understated. So it's very much a less is more kind of performance. And because of that, it allows you to actually sort of be embraced, or to sort of move in with the vibe, or the moodiness of it. And she's a perfect example of that. This old woman that just sort of shows up on the outskirts of town and turns a scarecrow into Elena's husband, who is just sort of this vessel that's being possessed by her, because he ends up, I think, Vergara ends up giving Elena the coin. So, they just divert their attention and resources away from Vergara, because I think he leaves, for the safety of the town and everybody else, and ends up giving it to Elena, who ends up just in a common sense sort of maneuver, just kind of tosses the coin over a bridge into like a river. But them not being aware of that actually bothered to resuscitate the form of her dead husband. And it's fucking creepy. It's creepy. It's creepy when that happens. Especially when, like, I think immediately she ends up like sleeping with him again, and you're just like, oh, this is fucked up. she's sleeping with like a scarecrow, which is never really touched on completely, so on and so forth.
Reminded strongly of Pearl here, which is
I
a
didn't
must-see movie.
see Pearl. Okay.
Well, she has a scarecrow for a husband too, but sort of.
Okay. Well, I mean, at the end when he finds out that she has thrown the corn overboard, he tries to kill her. With some success. I mean, he almost does. And yeah, I mean, the Sheriff Laguna end up saving them all. Really, really good stuff. Really good.
Right, we also get to see what is under the Vatican, and apparently there's a gospel written by Jesus, which they're trying to piece together and translate.
Which, because at this point Vergara is trying to speak to the Pope. He finds out that Santoro is right there next to the Pope, so he's not going to be. That's the man that the Pope refers him to, and the idea being that whatever is said in this gospel will basically undo the entire structure of the church, because it sort of makes all the other gospels and the New Testament irrelevant. So obviously they are, trying to control that. The father, and I think there's another scene there with another Lovecraftian monster inside the church.
Yes.
And that thing is just awful. It ends up ripping one of his Vergara's friends apart. And they actually use the spear. He stabs it with the spear of Longinus. The spear that pierced the side of Christ with it. It's very bold stuff. Very bold. There's also, at this point, Vergara runs away and ends up going to Syria. So, what did you think of that? The Syrian civil war they're in the middle of?
Well, it's interesting that he's going to a place where the Catholic Church doesn't have much authority.
He goes to a place where the Catholic Church doesn't have much authority, but the idea being that the pain, they can sort of sense his fear and, sort of locate him based on that. But there's so much pain and suffering in this war that it blocks out their ability to track him through the callous, the spiritual callous that's sort of surrounding this war. I thought it was very interesting the way that they handled that. There didn't seem to be any good guys. And like he tries to have that conversation with the one guy who throws him down in the pit, and the guy comes back later. He goes, "I didn't even translate what you told me." He goes, "They would have killed you." Like right there. He goes, "There's no dialogue here. You just do what you're told and shut up." It was an interesting perspective of how, Spain, or at least these showrunners, viewed what was going on over there. His prayers are not welcome over that dying man. Remember, he's like, "You've killed me."
I don't actually remember that bit. What's striking in my mind is that when he's down in the pit, is it this episode or is it the next one? Because if it's the next one, I apologize. But when he's down in the pit, he's having a conversation with Giacomo.
It's that episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is, it's significant later on. Because, people aren't exactly who they seem here, not even in the dreams.
That's another thing. In the sense that they are actually able to enter your dreams and sort of like one of the things I loved about that exorcism scene in episode 4 was that, Vergara asks for confirmation that this man claims he is who he says he is. And he tells him about that story about the time when he accidentally kills his dog.
Yeah.
And he buries it. And his father ends up taking the brunt of the blame from the mother, who thinks that, he killed the dog and didn't want to say anything. And he's like, you've never stopped feeling bad about that your whole life. He tells him who he masturbated to, or, this girl that, he never really even spoke to. But, so it's like these things that no one could possibly know. But then when you go into the Vergara backstory, and I just lost my train of thought with it, you see that. Him killing the dog, and then the father rolls up and he's like, why is your mother yelling at me? This, that, and the other. You lost the dog, this, that, and the other. But even in that dream, one of his friends comes to him in the dream asking him where the coin is.
Yeah.
They've even invaded your dreams, where they can appear in the guise of your childhood friend who you would tell anything to, asking about the coin. I think there's a sequence one time. I think it's him and Elena. I believe it's he and Elena.
Yes, in this enormous supermarket that goes on forever.
Yeah, and the gossipy old ladies are following them around the store, trying to listen to what it is that they're saying. I mean, that's just so fucking great. That's just so bold. It's fantastic. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff.
And I'm thinking of those three old ladies. They actually struck in my mind the second time around. They didn't really register the first time I watched it. But they're making me think of the three fates, the ones that cut the threads of life.
Yeah.
They're like a Greek chorus. There's something very archetypal about those three ladies.
Yeah, like the three witches in Macbeth.
Yes,
they meet him in the very beginning of the story. He runs upon them, and they tell him his fortune, and what he's going to be king, and this, that, and the other, and that's what triggers the whole, undercurrent of whatever was in him, to murder his brother, that sort of thing. They're the way they're always sort of pushing Mercedes buttons, trying to get her stirred up. Because I think at one point Paco leaves, and it moves into like one of the, up, and he takes a room above the bar, so on and so forth. Yeah, those ladies are not to be dismissed. Now, let me ask you this: have you watched any of the second season yet?
No.
Okay.
I'm in England, so I have a major problem getting hold of things over here.
Okay.
Basically, if it's not on Netflix or Amazon Prime, I won't see it. So what I'm going to have to do in order to watch this show is wait till the DVD comes out and then buy it on eBay.
Okay.
Which could take a long time. The only other way would be to befriend the director and be given magic codes to watch it on Vimeo, which has happened before. But not with this particular director. I'm following him. He's not following me.
Gotcha.
It might be some time before I can talk about season 2, but I tell you, I am gagging for it.
Okay. Well,
anybody who's listening, if you follow Cosimo Fusco on Twitter, he regularly posts about the show. So, follow him and he'll keep you up to date with what's happening.
So at this point, as Vergara is, he manages to escape.
Well, he's busted out, really, isn't he?
Is he?
Yes. I know what's the name of the guy who busted him out. Let's see.
Is it the one guy he's been talking to the whole time? He goes, that's right. I just want you to know we're not all.
The conversation between Giacomo. He's busted out in season 7. Episode 7.
Yeah, by that one man, he said, I just want you to know we're not all fucking crazy, or something like that, something along those lines. And that man ends up sacrificing his life to free them and the 2 UN workers. I think they were aid workers that they were just going to kill. That man ends up taking a bullet to make sure that they escape. I think it's only the 2 of them, the 2 men. I think the one woman ends up getting killed along with the Syrian. But There's also at that point the arrival of Father Angel, who arrives in the town. And one of the creepiest scenes is at the end of episode 6 when Antonio just wakes up and starts running through the town saying, "He's coming, he's arrived,
Yes.
he's here," and he gets the whole fucking town stirred up, and you're like,
Whose
what the hell
side?
is this?
Whose side is he on?
I think he's like a chaotic neutral. I think he's like that because he just seems to be
it wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to find that there's more than one Lovecraftian entity that has an interest in this town. I might be completely reaching here, but if it turns out that this young man is actually some supernatural entity, wouldn't surprise me at all.
It's possible. I mean, I don't know. Antonio is such. You're right. It's very difficult to put your finger on Antonio. I wouldn't go so far as to call him a likable character, but because it seems like he just interacts with everybody. So he's not like Elena and Paco, who are clearly on the side of good. And he's not like Merche, who's slowly being manipulated through her own insecurities to become evil, her own jealousy, and her own envy, and these sorts of things. He just seems to, he interacts with everybody, with the sheriff, with Paco, with Elena, with Father Vergara, with Angel.
He helps Father Angel put the magic circle around the town, though, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. That's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. He's an interesting character. But then, what ends up happening? Everybody comes back to converge on the town. We should also mention there's another interesting character in there. Well, he's not really interesting, but he's useful. We're talking about the Roche character, who is sort of the rich, old, I guess you want to call him royalty, old school royalty.
Yes, with the English language soundtrack, they call him Rocco.
Oh God, no! It's Roche. It's Roche.
Yeah, Roche. Roche has dignity. Rocco sounds like a washed-up boxer.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And not a likable one necessarily, but Roche is.
I thought Roche was, and I liked him.
Yeah, he seems like an honorable man. He's very rich. He's sort of like old school, like old money, Spanish kind of guy. He's very interested in Elena, especially since Elena's husband has been gone for 2 years. He's not judgmental. He just kind of comes down into town every now and again and hangs out. And then he goes back up into his castle. And finally, through all the stress and the near killings and the Lovecraft monsters and, her ex-husband coming back, Elena, because I think I should mention that between these episodes,
flees the town the first chance she gets.
Yeah, well, I think I should mention
her for running off to France.
Well, I think within the course of this, between episodes, sometimes significant periods of time, I think, elapse. If I'm not mistaken, I think sometimes a period of a couple of months can elapse sometimes with these episodes, if I'm not mistaken. And so eventually she just goes off with Roche, who says, "Hey, I've been wanting you to hang out with me for forever. Let's go to Paris. I'll take you shopping. We can hang out. We don't have to go back. Whatever you want to do. He's not a bad guy."
And he knows where the lingerie shops are too. So
he knows where the lingerie shops are. So there's that too. Especially with Elena. Why wouldn't you? So what ends up happening is, and I thought this was so creepy. At first, she turns him down, so he just leaves. He said, "Okay, want to go? I'll go by myself. I'm okay." And they go to that Japanese seafood restaurant. And the chef cuts open the fish, and what's in the fish but the coin that Elena threw into the water?
Yeah,
it makes its way back, and so Elena comes to join him, and they're having a nice time in Paris. And all of a sudden, you get another robbery attempt going on, and Roche just ends up just eating a bullet.
Well, we were forgetting the bit where he presents Helena with the coin that she really didn't want to see.
he did it, yeah, but he did it unknowingly.
Oh yes,
if there
we
is,
know. We figured that one out.
yeah, he thought she would find it amusing. Holy shit, you won't believe what I just found. And she just, she's like, she like jumps out of her seat, like, get that fucking thing away from me. It's like a snake, someone just dropped a cobra on the dinner table. Everybody's like, what the fuck is that? But yeah, he ends up getting killed. And so eventually what ends up happening, Vergara comes back from Syria. Elena comes back from Paris. Paco from wherever, the hell he's doing. And everybody ends up converging on this town now that Father Angel is there. And then we end up getting the fog from an episode 7 called The Glass Box. And the fog is creepy. It destroys all the possible sunlight that there is out there. Daylight, I mean, bright daylight. The entire town is engulfed. People are hiding in the church, but that doesn't really make a difference because Father Angel is the priest. At this point, Merche has really sort of just been won over by evil. And Paco, this is the one thing that's so annoying.
Her is still in love with Paco. Still in love with him.
I don't know. There's a part of me.
Come on! Look at the way she was fondling him. Look at the way she was falling all over him when he was unconscious. She adores him still.
There's a part of me, though, and a part of me that agrees with you, but there's a part of me also that said Merche is sort of, it's about winning. There's a part of me that says this is more about her desire to win, no matter what, or no matter, the topic, than, her husband. It's all, for me, it sort of feels like it's all mixed in there. Paco, again, she ends up putting that prayer card in. She's she's working with Father Angel, who's manipulating her. They put the prayer card in Paco's jacket. And so, Paco finally starts to fess up to the people in the church about, this really is kind of witchcraft that's going on here. And then he gets the pig's heads, everywhere, on everybody's door. I mean, it starts to become a little graphic. The wall surrounding so that people can't get out, lighting the church on fire. Merche leaves, and then, Angel lights all those people on fire inside the church. And then finally, getting the last coin. Finally gets the last coin as Vergara returns and grabs all those weapons. And then we get to the final episode called Sacrifice. We see for a second, what Angel's final form is, another Lovecraftian kind of monster. It has
Nyarlathotep. That is Nyarlathotep in the original story. No, not the story that Lovecraft wrote, called Nyarlathotep. But he had this dream of basically what looked like a human being, but with the head that was a scarlet tentacle. And now I'm getting a little bit confused here with some crossed wires. Being primarily a Lovecraft nerd, I'm a bit embarrassed because I cannot remember where he wrote that down. I think it was In the Moonlight or something like that. Anyway, it wasn't published as a full story until long after Lovecraft's death. But Nyarlathotep, one of his masks, and that is the thing to remember, is that this won't be his true form. This will be one of his forms. Because in Lovecraftian mythology, Nyarlathotep has about 10,000 faces.
Which we see him assume many of. It goes to about a half a dozen at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
After he's thwarted, he takes on the form of an Asian man.
Meant, but yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, what did you think of the last episode?
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. I thought it was the actual ending where Father Vergara just charges forward, pushes Father Angel out of the way, and shoves Santoro over the balcony, and people are overcome with greed and start scrambling for the coins. That seemed a little, I'd say Deus Ex Machina, but of course it isn't Deus Ex Machina. It's the behavior of one person, the unexpected burst of violence and genius.
Yeah.
What is I mean, there's so many things going on here. To see that Santoro seems to have a superior position to Angel, even though we know that Angel is the supernatural entity, Nyarlathotep, and Santoro is just a human being that got greedy.
It does seem that he is serving
of all the dead animals everywhere and the flies, and why people aren't just vomiting at the smell, I do not know. All the heads lining the walls, the garments soaked in blood. I mean, it's just so gross, all of it. And they're kind of, on the one hand, they're glamorizing it with all these men in the pristine white suits and robes and things. And yet surrounded by all this rot and decay and blood and, dead animals. I find also there's a kind of irony in a woman who's known as Mercy or Merche running a slaughterhouse. It's like, whoa, hold the phone.
Wait, running what?
A slaughterhouse. One of the businesses that she runs is a slaughterhouse. Remember? All the dead animals upside down.
I remember that they're having the press meeting, the one interview as the building opens up.
To the very beginning, one of her businesses is a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, they carved that pig right down the middle in front of the camera, and she's just like, they're talking about like kindness and like something else, and like the second she says that, this pig just gets like sawed, or the dead pig gets sawed right in half in front of them. I mean, it certainly is extravagantly gory, and the pestilence, and the death is just kind of everywhere. For Santoro,
the dove was a bit hokey as well.
The what?
You can't say the dove. I know you can say that's symbolic of the Holy Spirit, in the form of a white dove, but it still seemed kind of hokey.
You could have probably done a little less, or had the dove. I didn't necessarily, need the dove to attack Santoro, or though, if something had happened, like some light or something, just like a brief hit of light or something, that would have been fine. To think that everybody is suddenly just going to be afraid of this dove, without going into it a bit more. I thought, that could have been done a little bit better. But I mean, they've got everybody in the town taking these, black mass communions, which keeps them in a perpetual state of possession, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it just seems like, everything has balanced, fallen into that, new shift. And so Vergara's appearance or reappearance at that point seems kind of pointless, because he's not really able to do anything. He's just getting beat up, and then he gets stabbed by Angel, until he, in a last, sort of burst of, effort, sacrifices himself to, take Santoro out. I assume that they're dead.
Now, here's another interesting thing, because so we have Judas sacrificing himself in order to bring about the crucifixion and being damned as a result, and making him the greatest saint according to Father Santoro.
Right.
Here we have Vergara committing
As
suicide,
the
basically,
new
in
the
order
new
to
Judas.
take out Santoro. And, well, in theory, that should damn him, shouldn't it?
I don't know. I don't know if he's dead. I know that I think the role that they wanted him for was as the new Judas who supplies the coins. I
Oh.
don't think it included sacrificing himself to, prevent,
But Judas
the
dies by suicide, though, doesn't he, in the Gospels?
Judas dies by suicide, but not in the context of sacrifice. Although it appears that way to the Satanists. In the inverted, the more standard, version that we recognize, he's the betrayer. Vergara really hasn't betrayed anyone, at least not purposefully. He's been duped and deceived into, coming back and playing this final role, but he hasn't consciously, joined in with Vergara, Santoro, and
Mm.
Angel. So I think he's very much still the hero here, and
Oh,
that
of
this
course he's the hero.
sacrifice.
No disputing that.
No, but I don't think that this suicide, if that's what it is, if he's dead, parallels with Judas on any rational level.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think so. That's my take. That's my take on it. Now, I'm curious because I'd like to dig into this. Maybe I'll watch something tomorrow, and see if he's still with us. Because everybody, this episode ends, this season ends. All of the good guys are extremely badly dinged up and beaten. Elena's almost dead. Paco, Laguna, the sheriff, who I'd like very much. I'd like that sheriff who is just trying to, he's a common sense, he's almost like a flatfoot kind of sheriff, just trying to, hold it together in this incredibly fucked up time. He escapes with Antonio. He ends up shooting those two federal police officers. Paco does. So everybody leaves hurt and damaged. I assume that Santoro
Oh, I don't know.
dead.
Merche seems to be doing all right.
Merche and the scramble
And
as everybody becomes a bunch of jackals trying to scramble for coins. One of them just kind of rolls out. I love the way she just kind of quietly sort of reaches down and grabs one, and that Monsignor or whatever he was, Bishop, they end up leaving together. They end up leaving together. That's interesting.
They're going to be the stars of the next season. I've seen a few clips from the next season, and I tell you, I am so looking forward to seeing it.
Okay. It's a quality show. Is there anything that we have not touched upon that you would like to get into?
Well, I mean, kudos to the guy or girl who did the special effects, because the monster effects are absolutely wonderful, especially that giant spider near the beginning. Kudos to the lady who plays the necromantic witch. I have been Googling, I've been looking around, I cannot find her name. But kudos to that lady. I hope to see her in a few more things. I mean, the cast is just wonderful, isn't it? Even the smaller characters only get a few lines. They're spot on.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, those three old ladies, three old gossips in the town are fantastic. The young girl who's the bartender is fantastic. She goes between competent and, naive. Like when she lets Merche up there to put the prayer card in his jacket. And that one man is like, you shouldn't have let her up there. Like, she's up there to cause trouble. He's left her. He doesn't want, her to be up there. He's left for a reason. You shouldn't have let her go up there. She's like, well, she bought him fresh clothes. He's like, that's not why she went up there. She's up there to cause trouble. Everybody serves a purpose here in this casting.
Yeah.
There's no fat. All right. I think we are at the part in the stream where we rate the show or the season or the movie. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves.
Mm.
So you'd have 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather wear a sweaty shirt for a week than watch this series again, all the way to 5, which is this is cinema, this is the destination, this is why I watch and review shows and movies in the first place. What would you give season 1 of 30 coins? 30 monedas.
You know I'm going to give it 5.
Yeah, a 5. Okay.
Anything else is unthinkable.
Okay, a 5. A 5. No complaints then. No complaints. All right. I am going to go with a 4.5. I'm going to give it with a 4.5. I think there were some scenes and specific, not scenes, but specific episodes that were longer than they needed to be. Episode 7 clearly comes to mind. As we got towards the end, it started to stretch out a bit. And I get that they wanted you to see the big picture of what was happening in the town, but for me, that slowed things down a little bit, especially as I was waiting for this clash and culmination to occur. I just kind of, like, in the same way that you got right to it in the first episode, let's keep that pace going through 7, through 8, and, just smash. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about the ending with Vergara throwing himself off the balcony to sacrifice to Santoro. Now, I don't know if this is just European. It seems to end sort of anticlimactically to me, just a little bit. On the other end, but I'm not saying 3.5 or anything. I'm saying 4.5 because it's damn close to perfect. These are, as much as I'm, sort of bullet pointing these, critical observations. This is a fantastic series. And like I said, there's really not a great microscopic amount of waste or a small amount. Fantastic casting. Everybody plays their role extremely well. And you're right. I think Merche may be the best performer in the series. She's very complex. She's very complicated. She's very flawed. And she demonstrates all of those things. These aren't flat, black and white, one-dimensional characters. They have flaws, but you can see, you understand why. This sort of thing. You could make an argument. I remember somebody making a similar argument once about a movie that cast Monica Bellucci in it. And if you know Monica Bellucci, she's like one of the most beautiful women ever. And somebody said, well, they shouldn't have cast Monica Bellucci. She's too beautiful. It should have been somebody else, like, because she was playing a doctor. She was playing a doctor. It should have been somebody a little more. It was like a doctor in Africa, like Doctors Without Borders. And I'm like, they're like, it shouldn't have been. It should have been, someone a little more plain looking. And so I
don't get this notion that beautiful women have to be stupid. It's not the case at all. My experience is that is not true at all.
I disagree with it, but that was what someone said. And I was thinking almost something like that with Elena. But you couldn't have generated, I don't think, the jealousy with Merche if Merche was the better looking woman. And as beautiful as Merche is, this actress is, I'm sure if I saw her on the street, I'd be like, holy shit, what a beautiful woman. But, here we've got a woman who's, like you said, younger, so on and so forth. And so you could see why that would feed the triangle here. Hold on a second. We've got Diego saying the bartender is Beatriz Olivares. Okay.
Beatriz Olivares.
Olivares. So thank you. And he says, it's really lovely to hear you talking so nicely about the show.
Well, we love it. We love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's not to like?
Oh, you're part of the cast this season too. Wow.
All right. 6, 7, and 8.
Diego, congratulations. Congratulations. We'll keep an eye out for you.
I am. Yeah, I'm going to dig right into this this new season and get right on it. Like I said, I believe I saw this. The American actor Paul Giamatti has become part of the cast of the new season. So I love Paul Giamatti. I think I'm actually going to the movies tonight to see his latest release called The Holdovers, which is like a comedy drama. I'm a big Giamatti fan from the days of American Splendor. That's one of my favorite movies. It's the movie I watch every Thanksgiving. I love that movie. So I'm looking forward to seeing him here. And in what context? I don't know what he's playing. I don't want to know. I don't want any spoilers. But I'm very much looking forward to it. Yeah, please. So he says, so I hope you keep loving it. I believe based on what you shared on your conversation that you will. I'm confident. I'm very confident that we will. And he says, Paul nails it. I believe you. Thank you so much for stopping by in the chat. I apologize to you, Diego. I would have been more than happy to put the link to the stream itself in the comments. If you wanted to hop in yourself, I apologize. That's on me. I'm sorry about that. When we come back for season 2, we hope that you'll join us, and I'm happy to include the StreamYard link to put you in, and we'd love to have you come in just 5 minutes or something like that, just to say hey, if you've got the time. But we appreciate very much you taking the time to come in and join us here this afternoon. It means a great deal to this show and to both of us. Okay. Morgan Scorpion, plug something for your channel.
I can't really plug anything for my channel. I've had a bit of a cough and a cold this week, so I haven't recorded anything for this particular week. But my back catalogue's enormous. So if you like ghost and horror stories, Morgan Scorpion on YouTube. I tell ghost and horror stories.
You should put up a couple of old ones or something like that. Get those back into circulation, especially like on the community tab. I just did something. I put up in the community tab a stream for a beautiful piece of science fiction cinema called After Yang that I just absolutely loved and covered towards like 11 months ago. But like nobody talks about After Yang, and so I just put it back in there. It was directed by the director Koga Nada. Who is just an amazing Japanese film director. He did this great movie with Colin Farrell and Sarita Chowdhury about an AI, and it's just this beautiful piece of cinema. So put some old stuff up, and I'm sure people will want to check it out. Something they may not have had a chance to access yet. All right, for this channel, that's it for this week. Next week, I don't know if I'm going to do anything. It's Thanksgiving week. I might get something out myself, but there won't be any streams because it's a holiday weekend here in America, and people are going to be spending time with family, so on and so forth. We'll be back with something right after that, after the following week, though, the final week of November. And then in December, this channel will take on a theme for Christmas. And it's something along the lines of, I'm having a very rough Christmas. So I'm going to be covering some movies that are just kind of fun to look at during the holiday season. The main focus of the movie, of the theme, though, will be 1986's Richard Donner's Lethal Weapon, which is really about someone who's struggling a lot at Christmas. As you become an adult, you realize for some people, the holidays are not the most fun time. And so, it's not something that you pick up on when you're 8 or 9 or 15. But as people transition into different phases in life, the holidays aren't always a blast. So we're going to talk about that a little bit in a fun way. We've got a bunch of other fun films for that. And then, Julia, I haven't had a chance to discuss this with you yet. But once the Christmas holidays are over with, we're going to get into a theme of cold and scary. And it's going to be, I don't know if you were a part of the show at that point. A couple of years ago, we did this. We covered horror movies that take place in cold weather. So we spent an entire winter season from the beginning, from New Year's, pretty much all the way through March, discussing movies that take place exclusively in cold weather climates. So there were about 12 movies. Last time, I've got about 12 movies.
Well, I can think of quite a few.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, but we have as many as we can pick that I would think are high quality and what we usually would cover on this show. So I'm looking forward to that. And we definitely want to get you in for that if you're interested. All right. I think that's where we're going to bring it to a close. My thanks once again to Morgan Scorpion. And of course, my thanks to Diego Villanuedas Pelicero, who stopped by and spent some time with us in the stream. It means a great deal. Thank you so much. And we will see you all in the next video. All right. Have a good one, everybody, and take care. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.